Welcome to 0 to 7. This is the new Recruiting Playbook. We're going to save our questions and the interactive portion of this program until the end of the presentation. So right now I'm going to introduce you, well first I guess we'll talk about our objectives and then I'll go ahead and introduce you to your speakers today. Thank you.
Okay.
Now I feel like we're totally in control.
There we go.
Okay, so our session goals today. You know what? Does this pop out? Can I just get this out of here? Thank you. I can't turn and look. You're giving me way too many things to think about here. Okay, so our session goals in the talent management life cycle. We are going to learn about efficiencies in strategic recruitment and discover steps to nurture passive job seekers. And so you're going to see over there a lovely little diagram of what this cycle is going to look like. So now I'm going to introduce you to our speakers today.
I'll let you run that
So
on your side.
we have a pinch hitter, if you will. Brad, is it Schoenfelder? Am I doing that justice?
Schoenfelder, yep.
Okay, from Samford Health was unable to join us today. So stepping in today will be Wendy Daly, also from Samford. And then we have Katie Wiseman, and Katie is with Poet. And they can certainly tell you about their illustrious backgrounds. I'm not going to go into a bunch of stuff. They can certainly speak to who they are and why they're your experts today in the room. I'm Cindy Kruckelberg, and I'm the president of Sioux Empire SHRM. I'm also a human resources manager for a manufacturing company in T called Harvard Integrations. All right, so I'll kick it over to Katie.
Thank you, Cindy. So my name's Katie Wiseman, as Cindy mentioned, and I'm here to share talent acquisition practices today that's really helped us at Poet in attracting and engaging talent. First, I've got a video that I wanted to share with you to kind of describe not only Poet as a company, but from a company branding standpoint. And then I wanted to share more on our employment branding.
At some point, every person who has ever had a big idea has been told, don't bother. Keep your head down, do your work, know your place. At Poet, we know our place. Our place is at the forefront of history, pioneering an industry, challenging what's expected, changing the world. You want to change the world? You need more than common sense. You need uncommon vision. You want to change the world? You need more than just big ideas. You need big ambition to make them happen. You want to change the world? You need unwavering confidence. You need unrelenting passion. You need an insatiable appetite to do more, to be better. Poet is changing the world by producing clean, renewable alternatives to fossil fuels at our 28 bioprocessing facilities nationwide. We're reducing climate change and airborne toxins, improving worldwide health, providing American jobs, and reducing our dependence on foreign oil. And we aren't satisfied being the world's largest producer of biofuels. Our commitment to cutting-edge research has resulted in innovative technologies across industries and across the globe. Our entrepreneurial spirit continues to cultivate new, sustainable resources. The knowledge we've gained producing ethanol from excess starch is leading to revolutionary new technologies that turn biomass into cellulosic biofuel. We are improving livelihoods by teaching sustainable agricultural practices to farmers in developing nations and supporting quality educational programs that will inspire and empower generations to come. We're creating high-quality, high-protein, nutritious food and feed. We're improving global health with clean cooking solutions. We're replacing harmful petrochemicals and making asphalt more sustainable so that the roads we drive on are as green as the biofuels powering the vehicles we drive. Where others see insurmountable obstacles, we see unlimited opportunities, and we're just getting started. Sustainable biofuels, oil alternatives, nutrient-rich proteins, cleaner air, a brighter future. Poet.
People can identify with a desire to be a part of a company striving for a brighter future with cleaner air using renewable and sustainable products like we produce at Poet. So as far as our employment brand, recruitment really starts with that solid employment branding. And I would say at Poet, it's really magnified because of our company brand. When I think of employment brand, I think of sharing what it feels like to work at Poet, how our culture, our values, our norms affect the team member experience from applying to a job at Poet through their first day at work. I'm just gonna back up here. There's a ghost in the room controlling the slides. I guess it's almost Halloween, so. Go figure. But anyways, so yeah, it's really just about what it feels like to work at Poet through a team member's applying for the job, through their first day at work, their onboarding experience, and then throughout their career. And today, a majority of our new talent is generated through employment branding in efforts to tell the story of what it feels like to work at Poet versus kind of the post and pray method, which, works sometimes, but it feels better knowing if you can elaborate with a little bit more of an employment branding and a strategy behind it. So how we direct the narrative at Poet is, sorry, I'm backing up here. A combination of initiatives really centered around our culture of we always communicate, and we really want to ensure our team members are well informed and well connected regarding all things Poet. We want to make them feel like we genuinely care about them and their career and their families. And a couple of the ways that our employment brand has kind of started from internally at Poet and we're projecting it externally here is, one, I always think of trusting relationships. And one thing we did at Poet over the last 5 years is we did replace our annual team member performance reviews with what we call Poet Connection meetings. And these face-to-face meetings encourage healthy relationships and open the lines of communication between Poet people leaders and their teams. The other way that we're showing how we care about our team members is we do have a Poet wellness program, and that's called Energy for Life. It provides basic holistic approaches to physical, spiritual, and emotional health. This program offers on-site fitness centers, fitness center reimbursements for each of our locations. We have 28 plant locations across the Midwest. We offer a variety of fitness classes throughout the workday, company-wide health challenges, weekly motivational messages that really encourage balanced living, healthy food options, and then of course we do on-site health screenings. We also offer spiritual care and guidance through optional prayer teams, Bible studies, grief counseling, and access to community resources. And all of these things are really meant to fuel the lives of our team members with health, positivity, stewardship, both inside and outside of work. Secondly, in addition to trusting relationships, we need a way to inspire and attract talent. And one example of that is in 2017, Poet rolled out a Never Satisfied scholarship program. And that's funding 10 students across the country as a means of communicating Poet's message to college campuses nationwide. 10 recipients or students are selected from 2,200 applications received. We do get applications from all 50 states across the U.S. And the Never Satisfied winners display drive, courage, passion to really change the world. And this program has assisted our communication across college campuses, really helped us to recruit interns that have the same never satisfied perspective that we do. Then thirdly, it's kind of a call to action. You know, we expect and ask our team members to advocate for us. And that's shown here with our team member referral all program. It's probably one of our #1 sources for recruitment, which I'm sure a lot of the companies in the room today experience this as well. But really with our team member referral program, candidates are more likely to apply to a position when someone they trust shares the job opportunity with them and encourages them to apply. And this year we received over 200 team member referrals company-wide, which tells us team members are really sharing our culture and employment brand organically. We do incentivize our team members for each referral hired. We also reward and recognize our team members' behavior for referring someone even if the referral doesn't get hired, because we want to encourage that repeated behavior. When it comes to engagement, connection, nurturing, and how do we direct that narrative, we launched in 2019 an app called Sociable. This is a social media platform. It fosters communication across Poet locations with external audiences in our communities. And we did select Sociable because of a variety of reasons, but it's mobile and user-friendly. We also want to adapt and adjust to the new generation coming into the workforce with millennials, Generation X's and Z's. They want quick, accessible information, and especially when not everyone at our company is sitting in an office or sitting at a desk. They have hands-on work at any of our 28 different biorefineries. And it encourages our team members to advocate for Poet, which really helped out our social media numbers. The platform consolidates all of Poet's posts and provides a quick way to share them externally. So these are examples of some of the things that we put on Sociable. And not everything is for external eyes. We can control whether we want it shared internally or externally or both. A majority of our team members engage in Sociable while at work via their mobile phone, desktop, or tablets. And our team members are also encouraged to create and deploy their own Sociable content. And we encourage the use of social media outlets like Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter to communicate our culture, foster relationships, and engage and attract talent by sharing their experience at Poet. In doing this, we estimate a potential audience reach of 1.5 million from team members' networks. And as you can see here, as a team member engagement platform, we deploy a variety of content, whether it be recognition, advocating for the biofuels industry, and even recruitment. Some surprising insight from rolling out Sociable in 2019 is our team members actually shared with us that the distance between our plants seems smaller, and they really enjoy hearing about what the other locations are doing and what's happening in real time. Also, on the engagement aspect, as far as sharing, informing, and rewarding, we do have a number of ways that we share communications. We do want to make sure our communications are up to date. And Shown here, we have the Peanut in a Nutshell. That's an internal newsletter. A lot of our departments internally develop these newsletters to share company-wide because it's hard to know what, every single location and department is doing. We have a benefits buzz. We share information from a benefits perspective internally to our team members. And then the Vital magazine there, a lot of our cultural stories are relayed in Poet's quarterly national publication, reaching 50,000 subscribers. It's a free publication and provides producers and biofuel supporters with forward-thinking content that helps advocate our industry's external affairs, breakthrough innovations, and highlights our people and their passions in and outside of work. So it's actually a great place to promote our recruitment advertisements as well. We do lots of social media posts, as you can see, kind of the variety of content. Some of this might be kind of hard to see, but we estimate that between all of Poet's social media pages, we have over 100,000 followers. We find posting about our job openings, workplace atmosphere, team member recognitions, and company awards are an inexpensive and great way to inform audiences. For example, down there on the lower right-hand side, there's a post about International Women's Day. I think it's no secret there's a deficit of women in STEM-related careers, and Poet likes to lift up women in STEM careers to demonstrate examples of people that are breaking through social norms and giving others hope and encouragement. From a digital recruitment standpoint, we do several social media advertisements as well to try to attract talent. It is one of our more popular recruitment sources. Doing Facebook targeted ads, we can really get specific on geographic locations and candidate interests. Once the ad is clicked, of course, the user is directed to our external job board to apply. And overall, we found Facebook ads to be beneficial and cost-effective. We estimate there's about 5,000 clicks on Facebook ad content that converts over to our Poet Careers website. And we have 1.3 million newsfeed views, so the number of times that that image was displayed as content in Facebook news feeds. And then, of course, I'm sure all familiar with LinkedIn. That's another great top recruitment source for us. We showcase a lot of our sociable content on LinkedIn, whether it's happenings that are taking place at our plants, recruitment or company milestones. So, Poet is not necessarily a giant company. We've got 2,000 team members company-wide, and with that, we have a pretty small talent acquisition team of one or sometimes two, depending on who we get involved. But so we had to set up some sort of automation because there's a lot of work that goes into recruitment, of course, and that is really weird. Oh, goodness. Sorry. I'm not touching anything. So we chose iCIMS for our applicant tracking system, which integrates with our HRIS system. We use Ultimate software. iCIMS is mobile and desktop friendly. We found that 1 out of 10 hired applicants apply via mobile devices. And since the iCIMS implementation, we reduced our average time to apply from 10 minutes to about 2 minutes. Resumes are optional, but if uploaded, it parses information such as education and work history into their profile to really streamline the application process. External job postings can be automatically fed to dozens of job board aggregators like you see here, and social media sites, including automatically going over to Poet's LinkedIn and Facebook pages. Indeed and Monster also allow job seekers to submit their resume to iCIMS without leaving their job board site. So there's a little integration that's happened there. And then job seekers get automated communications from Poet about taking the next step to finish their application at that point. We've seen the number of interested job seekers double since going live with this integration the last 2 months. And in 2020, Poet added a feature to our applicant tracking system, which is the talent network, the main image there, that allows candidates to subscribe to automated job alerts and periodic email newsletter campaigns. So that's called our Poets Talent Network. Since May, we grew our passive audience by 400%. And that sounds like a big number, but to put it in perspective, we started at 0. So anything would be better than 0. But 400% isn't bad. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Wendy at Samford.
Thank you. Yeah, so I am obviously not Brad Schoenfelder. We had a little COVID outbreak in our office, so we are keeping him safe. I am one of the talent acquisition strategists, and one of the things that I do is work on talent ideas, ways to make our process work a little bit better, and so I work with Brad on some of those ideas. And there we go. So a little bit about Samford. So we are right at around 49,000 employees. We're out in 26 states. We average about 4,000 openings with 155,000 applicants. So we kind of have to streamline some of that, make sure we have a good solid process with that many people coming through. In 2019, we hired 19,000 people, and we had around 9,000 students coming in and out either for internships or clinical experiences. And so that's kind of our pipeline, and we want to make sure we know who they are and where they're coming from. Most of us who have been in recruitment can kind of understand the feeling of this. If you've been in recruitment for any length of time, we have created many hoops for people to jump through, fires that they need to jump over. Give us, your name, age, serial number, and your firstborn child, and maybe we'll consider you, is sometimes how it felt. And then if you come up with a system that works really great for your candidate, then your recruiters are feeling that exact same way, that you're making me jump through hoops and give you my firstborn child in order to hire somebody. So one of our goals has been to make a candidate experience that works on both sides, for both the hiring manager, or I should say all three, for the hiring manager, the recruiter, and the candidate. None of us want to not have a process that makes us feel good or makes us feel like we're having to do the same thing 3 or 4 times. I've been doing recruitment for a long time, and so when you think back to doing it on paper, and a lot of times it feels like we just made it a little bit faster by putting it online, but did we really save anything or improve our process? And so that's one of the things that we look at, is how do we actually improve that process, not just making it faster. And Katie talked about a lot of the different ways that they're getting out in front of candidates. We're doing a lot of the same stuff: tweets, Facebook, blogs, Glassdoor. Yes, people are looking you up on Glassdoor, whether you want them to or not. And so there's a lot of different ways for candidates to come into your system, and you really need to be out there telling your own story. People love to make up stories. And so if you're not out in front of things, if you're not getting the story out the way you want them to, read it, hear it, they're going to make up their own. So figure out where your candidates are and be there with them so that you can tell that story for them. So overall, the hiring process really hasn't changed all that much since we were doing paper. We post a job, we find candidates, they fill out an application, We have a screening process that usually includes an interview, and then we get into the onboarding process. And so we still have, this is still our basic process, but I want to share some of the things that we've done to kind of improve that process, some technology that we've implemented to make the process go a little bit smoother and flow for all of us. So one of our things we've done is we've signed on with a customer relationship management tool. We use Yellow, and this is a sourcing, in our sourcing stage, where people opt in to get information about us. Most of the time, we are sending out newsletters or other things via email for them to learn about opportunities, learn about events that we're going to be at, virtual or in person. Like I said, we use Yellow, but there are a lot of free or low-cost options. MailChimp is actually really easy to use. I've used it in outside areas, but people are able to opt in easily, and you're able to source them very easily without spending a whole lot of money. Now, some of your tracking tools, some of the things you can do in the lower cost options aren't going to be quite as fancy, but it is at least a starting point to getting out there and getting in front of people who want to be a part of your network. We've all had that, we've all made the comment that we'll keep your resume on file. Well, this is a way to actually communicate back with them. Virtual career events. So we actually started this prior to the pandemic. So we had a bit of a head start with creating that. And one of the reasons we did it was because of how wide and around the country that we are. We don't have someone in every state, or we don't have recruitment staff in every state, so we needed a way to communicate with people. So we use a tool called Brazen, and we are able to set up virtual career fairs, virtual chats, and ways for us to engage with candidates. And we have people who are online live during these sessions to answer questions, direct people to the right place, get them answer questions about the job, about how to apply, anything else that they might do if they were calling on the phone or seeing them at a career fair. There are some ways to do this without using an outside tool. You could use Zoom. You could use other like GoToMeet, GoToWeb to create these virtual career fairs. But you really want to be sure you have something that has a chat feature to allow candidates to ask questions and talk back with you. Makes it a little bit more personal if they feel like they're talking to a real person. Which seems counterintuitive if we talk about chatbots, because that is not a real person on the other side of a chatbot, but it can be very helpful in getting candidates to the right spot, getting people to the information that they're looking for. It's pretty formulaic, but research has shown that early in the process, people don't care if they're talking to a human or a bot, and they'll actually thank the bot. There's been research that people will, when they get done with this conversation, they say thank you. So they're a little more polite to a robot sometimes, maybe. But they like that early in the process. They like it later in the process because they don't have to wait. They don't have to wait for someone to be available. They can just get that answer and get them right to where they need to be. There is actually a site called chatbot.com. And they list out all of these different options for chatbots, from very basic, just answering basic questions and handing back links to get people to the right spot, all the way up to that conversational AI, where you can't really tell that you are talking to a robot. Those are pretty neat. There's not a lot of good ones out there, but there's some really neat ones. This was going to be a video, but since we're having issues with that, we won't go down that route. But we are also looking at creating real job previews for candidates. So we're looking at videos or audio sessions where people can learn more about what that job is really like. One of the things we find is we get entry-level people who want to be like a medical assistant or a CNA or something that doesn't require a lot of training, or that we do the training for, and then they get in and they didn't realize how tricky the job was going to be. They didn't realize that, oh, maybe direct patient care isn't what I want. So we're trying to help people find the job they want before they even fill out an application. Because you all have been there where you filled out a job application and it's long and you finally get through it and then you start interviewing for it and you're like, oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be. So we're trying to get rid of that because that's going to save the candidate time, and it's also going to save your recruiter's time, because we all know we have to touch every single candidate as they come through. You have to touch those applications, and so if we're only looking at people that are really interested in those roles, we're going to save a whole lot of time. Automated scheduling. So this is part of our yellow feature. It's part of our CRM, which allows us to send options to candidates so that they can select the time that works best for them. If they need to reschedule, they can go back to this and reschedule their interview. Because, in the past, what you have to do is you spend time and you go back and forth trying to find times that work. And if you have to get a hiring manager involved too, then you have 3 calendars that you're trying to look at. So in these systems, or in our system, the recruiter has time blocked on their calendar that's just for interviews. They block the time on the hiring manager's calendar as well. And then they send those links over to the candidates so that the candidates can select the time that works best for them. We've had a lot of good success with this, and so we're hoping that that doesn't go away, because that's been a really great feature, and trying to get that going. If that's not something that you guys have, I have used Calendly in the past, which is another great way to share your calendar with people, and then they can schedule what works for them. Again, we get rid of that back and forth of, especially if you get in voicemail tag, that's always fun too. We've all been there. All right, and finally, to chat about a little bit, video interviews. This is also something that we were doing prior to the pandemic, but everyone doing video interviews now, pretty much. It's a great tool. It's a great way to get in front of candidates. Some of the things that we were doing prior to the pandemic is we did start video interviews, which were a little bit more, they weren't like 2 of us talking back and forth. We would send them questions, and then they would record themselves responding. They could do it from their phone, they could do it from a computer, and it really makes it a kind of a nice way to, then you can share that whole video with the hiring manager. They're not relying on your notes. They see the person, they can understand what they're saying, and what that'll kind of get a feel for the candidate. One thing that I have heard other people are doing with these types of interviews is they have the recruiter record the questions first, so that it feels more human, that you're interviewing with a human rather than just talking to a camera, which can feel very impersonal. So that's one way to humanize it a little bit. The great thing about technology, sometimes it just feels very inhuman, but there are ways to make it feel more human, get that connection, get that connectedness. Again, if the candidate can see your face, they're going to feel more of a connection to you than if they're just reading the question on the screen. So, once we get our candidates in and they're onboarded, your current staff is really your best untapped source for filling your positions. And part of it is because in the past what we've done is we've just waited for them to apply for jobs. Unless you have really good hiring managers that are helping candidates, helping your employees move up and move through the organization, people are going to come in, they're going to do their job, and they're not going to think about looking for other roles. So we need to help them a little bit. We need to be a little more proactive with that. So we like to know our own. We have Workday as our HCM, which allows us to gather information about our own employees that normally we don't have in that system because you keep applications separate. So you don't necessarily have all of that information. And if you guys have been recruiting for a while, you've had that one employee that says, well, just check my file. Okay, well, you don't realize I don't have everything from your recruitment in this file. So this is a way for us to have that information at our fingertips. When someone applies, you can go check them out. And this also allows people to update. You can, I love this feedback feature that we have in Workday where anyone in the organization can give feedback to anybody else. So you can give them a, hey, great job on this presentation, or great job helping out that patient, helping out that customer. It's really kind of cool because when you log into the system, and like me, I log in once a week, maybe every 2 weeks, making sure my paycheck's gonna be okay. But it's kind of nice to see the little, hey, I've got a notice. Let me go see what's going on. This is kind of cool. And it's nice to give feedback, kind of give you that warm feeling as well. We also have ways for employees to kind of take that under their own advisement, work on it themselves. So we have, in Workday, we have this thing, it's called the Opportunity Graph, where it shows employees where the next move most people went to in the organization. Mine only has 3 because my role is pretty new. Haven't been a lot of us to have that. But for someone who's coming in as in food service or environmental services, or even as a CNA, to let them be able to see what that career path could look like. We also have, this is brand new, like a week ago, got the logo. Aspire is our career development counseling area, where we have career development counselors trained to help people find that new job, figure out what do you want to be when you grow up, helping you find that next role. And there's ways to partner with outside folks too, if you want to offer that, something like that to your employees, to make sure that they are finding their quote joy at work. And then we also have at the bottom listed different areas. So we have clinical opportunities for people to get training, non-clinical internships, educational assistance, where we provide scholarships, tuition assistance, tuition loan forgiveness. We sponsor some students into some areas to provide that financial assistance people need to go take their career to the next step. And we also are always looking for new leaders. And so this is our baseball card where we are looking for, looking at our candidates, or looking at our current employees who are in some leadership positions, and where are they gonna go next? And what areas are they strong in? What are some of the great things that they've done? And then what are some of the areas that maybe they need development in, and how do we get them in front of those opportunities so that they can develop and they can turn into, Minnie Mouse here going into the VP of Marketing, which, yeah, she might be pretty good at it, going from her Director of Marketing. So we keep this information on a lot of our leaders so that we can help get them to that next level and we can grow our own. So we do have things coming up next, because we're not there yet, and I think that's the name in recruitment, is always what's next, what's coming next, and what are we working on. We got lots of fun stuff coming. So one of the things we are working on is using text to screen. McDonald's can do it, Wendy's can do it, why not Samford too, right? Now maybe not all of our positions. We probably don't want to look for our VP of Marketing through text. But food service, environmental services, we have to be able to compete with McDonald's and Wendy's and Amazon. We have to be able to move quickly. And so one of the things we're working on is how can we screen via text? How can we get people to apply via their phone? How can we get it fast? What we would like to see is some of those entry-level roles. Can we get them from application to start date? Not hire, start date in 10 days. Maybe, we'll find out. One of my projects that I'm working on. But we need to be where the candidates are, and not everyone has a computer where they can sit down and fill out that 25-page application. And if you've ever tried to fill out an application on your phone, it's pretty hard to do, especially as you start getting in dates and stuff. So one of the things we're looking at, what information do we really need before a candidate is considered? Do we need that full application before we start considering them? Maybe, maybe not. Those are some questions that we're asking ourselves as we move into this new world of faster, faster, faster. We're also looking at how can we communicate better with our employees. Your app is awesome. I'm like taking that back for sure because that's a great thing. We also have so many employees that they're not sitting in front of a computer all day long. So how do we get this information to them? So one of the new communication tools that we will be starting hopefully soon is an internal HR podcast, so that we can provide information to employees that they can listen to while they're doing other things. You know, a video, an email that commands your attention because you have to read it. It's very visual. You can't do something else and read at the same time, but you can listen to a podcast and fold your laundry, or walk down the hall, take a break, and take a walk. So there are ways for us to get in front of we're always looking for new ways to get in front of our employees, and a podcast just kind of made sense to take that to the next level. So I think we're at questions.
Okay, do we have any questions? Okay. For us, it's mostly through our own talent acquisition. We have marketing assistants in like creating a template for us to use. If there's standard Samford language they want us to use, we work with marketing on that, but the bulk of the work does come from our talent team.
And I would agree with that. Most of that comes through our talent acquisition team, but for the digital creative and content and some of the messaging, we want to make sure it's, replicates our company brand as well. So that goes through our communications team.
Yeah, that consistent brand, I think, is important, because you don't want your outside brand, your employer brand, to be different from your customer brand.
Any other questions? I have a question. Okay, so I'm an employer. We have 125 people where I work, significantly smaller than both of your companies. What do you think would be the best path to chart for somebody like that that's just trying to dip their toe into the branding and things like that? Is there a company that you'd recommend? Is there, what advice would you give somebody that's really very much at the novice level in a situation like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't have a out-of-the-box solution per se. I know I've learned a lot from LinkedIn and looking at other company profiles and seeing how other companies are working their company brand and employment branding. So I think if you know who your competition is, looking out at what are they doing and how could you do something but make it your own, and I guess. You're,
especially at that size, you can talk with your own employees and talk about who are we, figure out what your brand is. Working with someone, that's the smaller you are, the easier it is probably to keep it in-house, but maybe working with a consultant to be able to help get the wording right, so that you're using the right phrases that are meaningful to your employees, because I think that's important, that your employees buy into who you say you are.
So have you found that there is one go-to medium? Are you finding a lot of people engaging with LinkedIn, with Twitter, with Facebook? Is there anything that rises to the level above anybody else as far as engagement, or is it really pretty much across the board at your organizations?
I think you almost have to be everywhere, because you don't know where those candidates are going to be. That's the hard part. We've had some jobs where we've had super awesome luck with Facebook ads. And those are so cost effective, which is great. And for some positions, those are great. But then you're not going to look for your VPs of marketing or VP of anything through a Facebook ad. Well, you might find them, but it's kind of knowing your audience and what are you looking for to be sure you're in the right spot.
Yeah, I would agree with that. even with our 28 different plant locations, I can't say that Facebook ad targeting works for every single one of them. It works for a majority of them, but we have found, for example, with our Mitchell, South Dakota plant, radio ads seem to be the most popular. So I guess, you know, kind of putting on that marketing hat and thinking about, okay, the people that we're trying to attract, what are their hobbies, where do they go on a day-to-day basis, you know, and just being able to speak to them directly in some way, shape, or form. Newspaper, radio, you know, sometimes newspaper print even works in some of our very rural areas. And sometimes it's just partnerships in the community and, you know, having students that are connected to parents that, you know, are aware of that industry in the local community. Yeah, you kind of have to be everywhere.
Yeah, one of my friends who's in marketing recently said, when you go duck hunting, you need to go where the ducks are. Same thing with recruitment. You need to go where the people are in order to find them. So that one just stuck with me.
Good analogy.
So Katie, with your app, do you find any employees that are reluctant to download the app? I don't want to say conspiracy theorist. I don't want to make them sound, you know, like they're in a whole other realm. But are there people that are concerned that you're not necessarily tracking them, but you're learning too much information from them if they're willing to download an app and have that free flow of information, if you will? Have you had any pushback at all, or do people seem to be pretty accepting?
You know, I will say people have been pretty accepting. That's, I guess I hadn't really thought about that, but perhaps our marketing team has gotten that pushback. With 60% of our team members, which we just have 2,000 team members, and so 60% of them, you know, I think part of it is just, you know, if they're not comfortable with downloading the app, maybe there's not that tie to it being important or information that they want to know about, and they just, you know, they're coming in for different purposes, and maybe they don't want to get distracted by that. I know Facebook is one of the most time-consuming avenues, you know, and some people are just not into social media too, especially, you know, at our plants. It's a very hands-on physical job, and so you'd really have to be kind of on break. We've got safety precautions in place. We have parts of our plant where you can't take your cell phone. So it really has to be, you know, on break time or, you know, before or after work hours, and maybe they've got other priorities. But we just found that we can only do so many emails before, you know, people aren't at their computer at our plant. So it's one baby step towards, okay, well, let's see what else we can do for communication. We also have little, you know, you think of the bulletin boards that we have around companies, and now we've replaced them with the flat screens and communicators. So we have a PowerPoint that we can, we have like a library of PowerPoint slides that we roll out to our plants, and they're actually created by our administrative coordinators at our plants. And so they get to pick and choose what they want to put on their communicator boards, and sometimes it's our team member refer-all program, sometimes it's a company event, you know, benefits, open enrollment coming up, and for those people that aren't quite at their computers or at their desks on a 24/7.
Okay. And then I have one more question. Wendy, when you showed the cute little scorecard, your little baseball card, if you will, of Minnie Mouse, is that something that you do only once you've identified somebody potentially on a leadership path, or do you develop a scorecard, if you will, like that for everybody in your entire system?
It's at when they get to a certain level, and I'm not exactly sure what level that is. You know, I could say I'm pretty sure there's not one on me. There could be, I don't know. But you know, once people get to that certain level, and because we want to look at those high-profile spots, and those are those, VP of marketing can take a long, 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 long time to fill. And if we can do that internally, if we can promote somebody, I think that's really where Samford wants to go, is making sure that we're promoting from within when we can and finding that talent. I think a lot of us would agree, companies have not been good about that. You have pockets where you have somebody that's really good at mentoring, but you don't have that across the board. So this is a way for us to have that across the board and help all of our leaders be better mentors and getting the right people moving up in the organization.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much to Wendy Daly and to Katie Wiseman today. We really appreciate your input and your insight.